Welcome back to Ferocious Education. This is Zed. Today I'm going to be talking about NOV, and this is going to be a little bit of an in-depth video. Make sure to drop a like this video to help the channel grow, subscribe and leave notifications on, and if you like this video, feel free to share it. I'm going to go through technical analysis, mainly through news and everything I can find. That's going to be my emphasis on this video. Let's jump right into it right away. On the 1 week perspective, what we get to see here on an MACD, that is actually personal, or at least trying to attempt it. It looks like it's actually stabilizing in this level on a 1 week perspective. That is mainly due to the nice jump that we had in the last week. Now, if we were to look into the ADX, what we're getting to see here is the possibility of a trend forming, and that is really nice to see. William percent R here is actually going on from oversold to neutral, heading to overbought. Momentum, though, seems to be still slipping up into the negatives ever since the week of the 27th of September, although volumes have been adding on and the unbalanced volume looks bullish. Now, when we go on towards the moving averages, they do look bearish in every kind. It's still below the 50 SMA, 200 SMA, that's the blue and the purple line, and then 30 EMA is above the 10 SMA, so it still looks bearish. Now, let's take a look into the 1 day perspective, and what we get to see here is something that is really interesting. It happens every now and then. Now, MACD here is actually climbing up. That is nice. ADX went from very sloppy to moderately sloppy. Going on towards William percent R, it looks like it's actually retracting to oversold. Unbalanced volume is still, looks like it's still higher than it was before, but it's losing momentum. And you can see that loss in momentum is also seen on the momentum indicator. And the volumes have been decreasing, which is a bearish sign. Now, the moving averages are almost all touching in, they're all squeezing in. Now, in this sense, this is considered going on from bearish to bullish, because the 10 SMA and the 50 SMA are climbing up, 200 SMA and the 30 SMA are climbing down, so that is still bullish. Taking a quick look into a 1 hour perspective, what we get to see here, and this is merely just for the next few hours, is that there is a possibility for trend. It's overbought. Moving averages are going on from bullish to less bullish, and we get to see an MACD that looks sloppy. Nothing significant at all into the 1 hour perspective. Now, moving average band, we're looking 45 in the bottom, 50 in the middle, and 55 in the top. That's where it's expected for it to trade in the band. Now, stochastic fast and slow. On the slow, it doesn't look like it's actually curved down or stabilized, where it basically falls down from a trend. It still looks quite bullish. Now, on the stochastic fast, what we get to see here is that the stochastic fast %K is actually curving down. Meanwhile, the %D fast is still jumping up. So what we might see here is an indication that, hey, there was a pullback, but it's still moving on quite strong, and it has the possibility to see highs. Now, this all depends on news, of course, right? What we're going to be focusing on. 49 cents as a Fibonacci support, and then we're moving on to 65 cents as a resistance, and then 78 above that. Now, significant supports and resistances based on the chart alone. We get to see 50 cents is significant support here. Below that, we're looking at 46. Below that, we're looking at 39. Significant resistances, what we're seeing here is a 62 cent mark. That's a significant one. And then we're looking all the way back to here to around 63. Then above that, we're looking at 68. Then above the 68 mark, we're looking at the 73. Now, yes, it did jump up to 75, so technically that is a resistance, but I think that resistance is there in 78. Let's take a quick look into the latest news and what we have for this one. So, this one here, I've talked about it before, and mainly main thing about it is the nitrogen oxide. That is quite bullish. So, the nitrogen oxide has been published into different papers in terms of journals and research papers from different universities about basic effects on them on COVID. And previously, it's been proven that it has effects on SARS infections in China in 2003, so it might have similar effects this time around. So the nitric oxide dosed in short bursts at high concentration may protect against COVID-19. This article just came out on the 1st of October, and there's tons and tons more of them. So the medical industry or the research industry is full of this, and basically what it looks like is it does, and that is amazing. Medscape here, for instance, have an updated one around October 13th, so there's massive amount of research saying that yes, it does. So we're going to go on through a little bit of SEC filings and try to understand, okay, now we know that one of their products actually works or has a strong potential. What about the management that is behind? So, taking a quick look, well, of course, their last PR that made this one really jump highly is Novon's NitroCell technology shows in vitro antiviral effect against SARS-CoV-2 in human airway infection model. And that's the first demonstration of antiviral effect of nitric oxide based medicine against SARS-CoV-2 in in vitro model that mimics the human airway epithelium. So that is quite exciting. It's already priced in at this point, but basically the IND is targeted in 2021, if I'm correct. In the presentation, they do mention, I believe, somewhere in Q1 2021. Based on scientific literature data available to date, the Berzosamir sodium and Novon's product candidate CB206, Novon believes that nitric oxide might inhibit viral replication by distributing protein function critical for viral replication and infection through generations of reactive intermediates. Now, that is quite exciting to hear. Let's move on. We're going to go through all the latest SEC filings. That's probably just going to go around a month and a half back. Addition of shares is seen, so that is exciting. Additional 20,000 shares exercised by Bierman James. Appointments of new director, so we're looking at James L. Bierman, and that is as well the person who just added additional shares on there. Chosen, well, on their, what is it? It's almost on the same day, I believe. Yeah, on the same day they did have warrants and they exercised it. So nothing very, very significant because they've just been appointed for the company until the 2021 meeting. And then as well, John M. Gay, he is going to be moving on as a chief financial officer. I quickly pulled up his LinkedIn, and what we get to see here is he did serve in different companies, including MaxPoint, Velasys Digital, and Deloitte. And he's been with the company for 2.5 years, so he must have shown actual potential rather than just climbing up the ladder. So I would say as a CFO, it looks good for them. Now, moving on, in terms of developments and highlights, and this will be highlighted in the presentation in a minute, B-Simple-4 pivotal phase 3 study for treatment of molluscum is underway. Target completion of enrollment on Q1 2021. Top line results targeted for Q2 2021, subject to timing and trial execution plan, which has been and may be further impacted by COVID-19 pandemic. Moving back, additional shares being bought and the buying in intervals of 20,000 shares. This is the most significant one, I think, in the SEC filings for me, is the proposal that did have before. I believe this was voted all the way back in July. So it's quite way back, and I did dig in. And the reason I dug for this one here is the approval of amendment of reinstated certificate incorporations of Novon. The proposal to approve the amendment of the company restated certificate of incorporations to effect a reverse stock split of the company common stock at a ratio not less than 1:2 or 1:15. With such ratio implementation and timing of such reverse split is to be determined by the company board directors in its sole discretion was approved. So they literally have the approval to hit a reverse split. It's still not complying to NASDAQ minimum bid price. So what we need to think about, okay, when is the most likely time that they're going to be holding a reverse split, right? You want to make sure you're out before a reverse split, and if you still believe in the company, back in after it bottoms out or stabilizes. That is usually the rule for stock reverse splits. Again, additional shares being added. This one was all the way back for Keegan Roberts Jr. Ingram Robert Alexander, additional as well at 78 cents. And let's jump into the presentation before going on towards their compliance. So, as I said, ongoing pivotal phase 3 study with data targeted Q2 2021. Significant market opportunities of 3.4 million. NitroCell platform is significant in terms of their current pipeline. Their main three current focus on is molluscum SB206 and the coronavirus for Berzosamir sodium and undisclosed antimicrobial. And we're looking into nitric oxide for therapeutics. That's the one that we're talking about for COVID-19. And so they're looking into some realistic data, and we're looking into times and real time of NO release in terms of their effectiveness. So All in all, it looks still kind of bullish. SB206 for the lead program for the ongoing Pivotal 3 study for treatment molluscum. And so in terms of the burst phase and sustain phase, you get to see in terms of real-time nitrogen oxide, the massive increase, of course, in the burst, but the sustain one doesn't dip down all the way to 0. Now, when we're going on towards molluscum, we're looking at 70% of patients are below the age of 10, and around 1.3 million diagnosed per annum. And we're looking into some of their potential NDA filings that are targeted in 2022. They also do have some of the pipelines that they put in the backseat. I'm not sure exactly when are they going to go back into it, which is this one here. That is basically they're going to prioritize it and then probably release another PR mentioning which ones they're going for and which ones are. Now coming on towards compliance. This is the last thing I was able to pull off that mentioned compliance. And it does say that to regain compliance, the closing bid price of our common stock must meet or exceed $1 per share for a minimum of 10 consecutive business days prior to November 2nd. They're unable, they can either apply for an additional 180 days compliance period with minimum bid price requirement. So that is an option. If they don't qualify, then determination of delisting of the stock would have an opportunity to appeal for the delisting later on as well. So that's what we have in terms of everything in all in all. Before moving forward and discussing, well, how realistic is that reverse split, or if it will happen, in my opinion, I don't see any institutional buyers here that are going on other than fund index or some kind of index fund. So that seems to be that. Purchases here, direct ones on my platform, I don't see it, but I do see it in the SEC filings. So now let's talk about the possibility of, okay, is a reverse split gonna be happening anytime soon? Now, in all realisticness, if we were to talk about November 2nd, you need 10 days before November 2nd. We're talking about literally tomorrow. So that is where your timeline is that tomorrow a reverse split would happen or would be announced. Now, I really doubt that that would be the case because usually companies don't leave it to the last second or they don't announce it to the last second. If reverse split is going to happen tomorrow, they announce it. So my understanding for this one here is that they're more aiming for the 180 days extension for regaining compliance. That is where I think their focus is on right now. But it's still a risk where, you know, you might actually not, they might apply and they just go on with the reverse split. Although I really, really doubt that that is the case. But if they don't do a reverse split right now, then that might either be two things that you might think of. They're either way too confident that they're going to reach above $1 sometime soon, or they fear that their COVID-19 nitrogen oxide would not be as important, and so they will try to ride it as much as possible. So in case they do a reverse split now and that fails, the price doesn't drop massively. I really doubt it's going to fail, and I really think it might be the first one. But in terms of where it looks like right now, is that I don't see if tomorrow doesn't happen in terms of a reverse split, I think it's really unlikely that we see a reverse split, and we probably would see 180 days submissions for extension. What do you think about this sticker? Make sure to mention down in the comments below. Share, subscribe, and like. You have a wonderful day.